Today, the most interesting person in the room is Mark Herlaar, famously known as Tarzan on Australian Survivor. He was a fan favorite, known for his charm and unbreakable loyalty. He starred in 2 seasons of the show, including Survivor All-Stars. He's also starred in several seasons of the UK version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. But his most surprising adventure led him to Nepal, where he transformed into a guru. So we have a lot to unpack with literally someone who seems to have lived 1,000 lives. Mark Herlaar, Tarzi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. As they say in Nepal, namaste, you know.
I first came to know who you were when I was in Australia and New Zealand with my wife. We spent several months traveling, and we were at that time when in New Zealand where you start getting homesick. You just miss those things that made you feel like home. We happened to
Yeah.
turn on the local TV, and in New Zealand it was Tonight on 2, Australian Survivor. And we were like, what's this? We turn it on, and Jonathan LaPaglia introduces and starts talking about Tarzan. And we're like, who is this guy? And at that time, you had a lot, the long hair
Yeah.
going. You
Yeah.
were an all-star. We hadn't seen the 2017 version of the show where you got that name, but all of a sudden you were on there, and your essence of who you were was just the kind of guy that you're like, wow, I'd love to be friends with him. I'd love to talk with him. He'd be a good guy to have your back. And then, of course, on Survivor, you get stabbed in the back. So it wasn't exactly, but you were who you were on that
Yeah.
show, and it's who
Yeah.
you are in life. So let's talk about that first
Sure.
journey into
Yeah.
fame and stardom and Survivor. How did you get into this?
Mate, it's actually, it all sort of links in. It's if I go back like even pre-Survivor, like the first one. I've always been on this journey, I guess, as many of somewhat of an enlightenment. And when you say that, people think, oh, deeply spiritual instantly. But enlightenment comes in many forms, right? Like I had a business, I got out of that business, I changed into a different business. So that's an enlightenment of a business journey. So there's many forms of enlightenment, right? In my case, I always had a touch of spirituality with that, and I also had, the journeys of, being in business and all that sort of thing. But when I got out of a certain business that I had there for like 20 years, it was like a life-changing moment. And I remember getting up one morning, and this is, I guess, something that I don't share a lot on podcasts, directly, because typically I just want to talk about Survivor, but you want to cover the whole, the whole
We want to
story.
know you.
Sure. And this is actually that's like the beginning of that chapter, I guess you could put it that way. I got up one morning, I stepped out of bed, and I know this may sound weird to a lot of people, but then a lot of people would actually relate. So it depends who's listening, right? I got up and I clearly heard a voice speak to me. Now, I haven't been in any institutions lately, but I got up and I heard this voice, and I heard it so profoundly that I turned to look out the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it was
and the
real.
voice, yeah, it was real as, and I mean, my wife was present, but she didn't hear the voice. So instantly we could go, hey, Tarzan's flipping. But to get to it, I heard this voice distinctly say to me, and it was like a whisper more than a voice of God coming from heavens.
Yeah.
It was basically a whisper in my ear that said, I'm going to make you a little bit famous, and there's a guru. And of course, imagine if you got out of bed and the first thing you hear is some voice speaking to you saying, hey, I'm going to make you a little bit famous and a guru. And I wasn't the person that was on a journey for fame. I certainly wasn't looking. I wasn't an actor. I'd never been an actor. I wasn't pursuing that industry, not by any chance. And when I heard this, it stopped me in my tracks. And when I was looking left to right, my wife, who just got out of bed, she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Did you hear?" I said, "Did you hear that?" She's like, "Hear what?" And I went, I clearly heard a voice speak to me saying, I'm going to make you a little bit famous. And there's a guru. And she said, what does it mean? I went, I've got no idea. But I said, anyway, what's for breakfast? We just moved on.
Right, right. It makes sense in hindsight, but at the time, you might have well has been anything, right? You just didn't know where it was going to lead.
Like I said, I wasn't pursuing, I had no inclinations. I wasn't a Buddhist. I wasn't studying Buddhism. I wasn't studying Hinduism. I wasn't studying gurus. I didn't follow, I wasn't even in that scene. I guess when I look over my life now and I'm trying to give some sort of reflection on it, I, you've seen the Hollywood dramas about the biblical events when Noah built an ark. It was that kind of a moment for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I wasn't told to do anything. See, that's the energy that I really over my life now has been basically is like I don't have a specific plan. A lot of people have a lot of plans. I don't have one. It's just I'm just living day to day. We do the housekeeping, but I don't have a mission uh, per se, right?
Yeah.
And when I heard this, it would have been about a year later. My mother passed away, and in that interim as well, I had a brother who passed away, and I think this adds some significance to it because you wouldn't even have this version of me if this brother hadn't have passed away. Because when he did, symbolically, what some of the natives do in the islands around here is they shave their heads, they shave their beard, and then they grow that for 3 months, and then at the end
Okay.
of 3 months, they shave it off, and that ends the period of mourning for the person who passed. Right.
Okay.
So I just took it up a notch, and my brother was 5 years older than me. His name was Herman, and I remember shaving my head around. I just came to him, it's like shave your head, cut your beard off, and then at that moment, I dedicated the next 5 years to just growing hair
Wow.
as a remembrance of my brother. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So
Mm.
your initial look that the world got to see with Survivor with the long hair and the really long beard, that tribute to your brother was that still playing out then?
Yes, it was. It actually, because in the 5 years, so I was only about a bit over 12 months into that journey. And so I had a bit of growth. The hair was getting longer. And I was sitting on a couch in the lounge here with my sister just after my mother passed away. She came down to visit. And in that we were watching Australian Survivor, the first season, of the current producers, right?
Yeah.
Uh, with Lee Castledine and those in it,
Of course. Of course.
absolute legend, good friend now. Good. So see how weird life can get. I'm sitting on a couch with a sister. You'll love this part. My sister's name is Jane.
Okay. Jane of Jane and Tarzan.
You
I mean, you can't make it up. But
can't
see,
make that.
that's what's so amazing, right? You're watching Lee and now you're friends with Lee. I watched you and now I'm talking to you. So I mean, life is
Exactly.
just weird that way. So you're growing this out. You're on the couch, you're watching Survivor, and does somebody say to you, you should be on Survivor, or do you feel like I could do this?
No, I'm sitting there like this, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, geez, that looks tough. And I'm seeing Lee Castledine, he's stripped, he's been in the show for a bit. He's lost a ton of weight, he's cut up. I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, geez, that guy's he's really got it going. My sister Jane says to me, you should go on that show. And she said, you'd be good at it. And I wasn't like physically fit like he was, right? When she said that, I actually turned to her and I said, you know what? I think I might. And then I let it go. Funnily enough, like I like the story how it gets kind of like mysterious, there's all these because I'm not pursuing anything. So for anything to happen to me, there's a saying we have, that you would have heard, whatever's meant for me will never pass me by.
Yes,
Meant for you if it's meant for you. So when I get up early morning, before crack of dawn and I start talking to you, I go, this is meant for you because it's not passing you by.
exactly. That's
So
a
there,
that's a great philosophy.
Well, it is, and it also adds. I think when you view your life that way, not to get off the track, but it's good to chuck a bit of spice in. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, when you view your life that way, what I find is the miracles come to you. You don't have to go looking for them. You don't have to even try and create them. You can. There's an ability within us all to perform miraculous things.